Okay, so new data is out. And, well, it really confirms what a lot of people were already thinking.
Yeah.
The traditional Republican Party establishment.
Yeah.
It's fallen.
Yeah, it looks like it.
This shift, it seems structural, definitive even, driven by, well, a really powerful populist mandate.
Absolutely.
Today, we're going to dive deep into a whole stack of analyses, poll data, basically charting this total transformation of the Republican Party. Our mission, like always, is to give you the shortcut, right? To understand the definitive defeat of the old conservative guard, how this America First coalition really rose up, and the key battles happening right now.
Yeah, from local primaries up to big policy fights.
Exactly, like entitlements. This isn't just, some internal squabble.
Yeah.
The sources are framing it as a political conquest.
And the data, it just lays bare the scale of this thing right away. We're talking nationwide, 75%. 3/4 of self-identified Republicans now define the party through the Make America Great Again platform and its leader.
75%. Wow.
Yeah, it's not just a passing mood, It really looks like a fundamental realignment, and you see it happening in real time. Take Louisiana, the Senate race there.
Okay.
You've got a Trump-endorsed challenger who's actually leading a traditional incumbent, and that incumbent's big perceived sin, voting to convict the former president.
Right, after impeachment.
Exactly. And what's really fascinating, according to the analyses we looked at, is how this whole movement ties into these deep historical currents. They often mention the Jacksonian tradition.
Alienation from the establishment.
Precisely. It fuels this voter base that feels, completely let down by the national establishment. They believe government actions have, and these are quotes, ruined my life or invaded the country. Strong stuff.
That 75% number, it just keeps echoing. It feels like the anchor for this whole conversation.
Yeah.
So let's unpack the sheer scale of the defeat for what the sources are calling the Reagan-Bush old guard. The analysts seem pretty clear. This populist movement, it's achieved a kind of domination of the Republican Party that's, well, frankly unprecedented among recent Republican presidents.
It really is. That old GOP infrastructure built up over decades. It's like it's been systematically replaced almost from the ground up.
So why? Why did it happen so quickly?
Well, digging into the why, it seems the traditional leadership just fundamentally failed to recognize or maybe serve these key emerging voter blocs.
Like who?
Primarily those blue-collar Rust Belt voters and also Southern ex-Democrats who'd switched parties. The old guard just wasn't speaking their language, it seems.
Okay.
And the analyses suggest that communication breakdown, well, it opened the door for these populist forces that, like we said, tap into that historic feeling of alienation from a, distant national elite.
So the old guard didn't see it coming.
It seems like they didn't realize they'd lost control of their own party until, boom, the populist movement had basically seized it at the precinct level. It was already happening.
And what we're seeing now is like a total power reversal.
Yeah.
The power isn't really in the party structure anymore, is it? It's in the personal brand.
Exactly. The sources give this really striking comparison. In one poll, right, the state Republican Party itself, 62% favorability. Okay, not bad. But the Trump brand, among the exact same group of voters, 75% favorability.
Wow. That's a huge gap.
It's massive. And that difference in loyalty, well, that's a powerful weapon, especially in primaries.
So why does that brand have such pull? What's driving it?
Well, to really get why it holds such sway, you got to look at the underlying emotional drivers the analysis talks about. The main fuel seems to be this really angry counter-reaction against what many voters see as, quote, radical wokitarianism.
Yeah, radical wokitarianism.
Yeah. These voters, they express fear of a government system they view as being aligned with woke corporations, big universities, the dominant media.
All working against them.
Right. All seen as working against traditional American values, maybe trying to, quote, reduce plain people to servitude. That's the feeling described.
So you've got this political energy that's really driven by cultural anxiety, a feeling of being targeted, and that translates into policy demands.
Precisely. That gut reaction, it demands specific action. And that's why this new movement prioritizes what our sources call the MAGA forward issues.
MAGA forward issues, okay.
Yeah, they're very specific, very populist, things that connect directly with that voter base feeling alienated. The 4 core ones that keep coming up are the economy, illegal immigration, violent crime, and government corruption.
Very tangible, immediate concern.
Exactly, not abstract ideology.
And if you look at the economics piece, the support seems, well, validated by the numbers, right? Voters are clearly worried about their wallets, their safety.
Definitely.
The analysis points out, for context, the former president gets a 48% excellent plus good rating on the economy. Now, here's the critical bit. That specific rating, 48%, is actually higher than President Biden was rated on any single issue at any time in his presidency, according to these sources.
Wow, that's quite a statistic.
Isn't it? That stark difference really tells you where voter focus lies and maybe where they perceive economic policy was working better for them.
Okay, so let's ground this in a real fight, like that Louisiana Senate primary you mentioned.
It's Senator Cassidy.
Incumbent Senator Bill Cassidy, he's one of the 7 Republicans who, took that really politically risky step of voting to convict the former president.
And paid a price for it within the party.
Oh, yeah. Instantly censured by the state GOP, called a disloyal lightweight by the former president himself. That's tough.
That's some heavy political baggage going into a primary. And his challenger.
John Fleming. He's a founder of the House Freedom Caucus, former Trump appointee. And he's hitting Cassidy hard with that RINO Republican label.
RINO Republican in name only.
Exactly. And it's not just talk. The sources show the impact in the polls.
What are the numbers?
Well, a recent JMC Analytics poll looking at likely Republican primary voters actually has Fleming slightly ahead of Cassidy right now, 25% to 23%. It's close, but...
But the runoff projection.
That's where it gets stark. If it goes to a head-to-head runoff, the projection shows Fleming pulling away significantly. 40% for Fleming, only 29% for Cassidy.
That's a big swing.
It really is, and it feels like the data-driven penalty for what's seen as disloyalty to the movement's brand.
Which leads straight to the power of the endorsement itself. The data seems unequivocal. The Trump endorsement is called an extremely powerful tool in these primaries.
Yeah, the sources suggest it can give a candidate a boost of up to, 20 points?
20 points. Is there any counter-argument in the sources? Like, can an incumbent like Cassidy still overcome that? Or is the endorsement just the decider now?
The sources sound pretty pessimistic for incumbents who cross the movement, mainly because of that 20-point factor. For ambitious politicians, the message seems inescapable. Primary success means you have to align with this populist agenda.
Stick to the platform.
Yeah. Focus on immigration, crime, economic nationalism. That seems to be the only path forward highlighted in the analysis.
Okay, but this movement, successful as it is in primaries, faces this huge policy trap that historically always tripped up traditional conservatives. Entitlements.
Yes. Social Security, Medicare, the third rail of politics.
Right. Historically, conservative reform efforts, they were rooted in this kind of anti-collectivist ideology.
All right.
Individual responsibility, less government spending.
Exactly. You think back to figures like Barry Goldwater suggesting making Social Security voluntary, or George W. Bush pushing for partial privatization, Paul Ryan advocating Medicare vouchers, all aimed at injecting market ideas, individual responsibility.
And how did those attempts go?
Well, historically, the sources say these specific detailed reform plans repeatedly backfired. They became huge political liabilities in national elections.
Why, though?
Because, fundamentally, Americans broadly worry that any changes will threaten the benefits they count on. And it's not an unfounded fear. For over a third of retirees, Social Security makes up at least 90% of their entire income.
90%?
Yeah. So attacking those programs or even suggesting big changes, it just gets perceived by voters as an attack on their basic financial security. It becomes ammunition for the opposition.
Okay, so this is where the new movement shows its pragmatism, learning from those past conservative failures.
Absolutely. The MAGA platform seems fundamentally pragmatic on this specific issue.
How so?
They clearly learned a lesson from those past defeats. Specific, detailed attacks or overhaul plans for Social Security and Medicare. They're seen as political poison, that third rail.
So they avoid it.
Completely. Instead, the movement focuses intensely on its winning populist issues. Law and order, national security. Politically, these are seen as much safer ground.
And they align perfectly with that base, worried about government intrusion and national integrity.
Exactly. It avoids the policy trap that really hurt figures like Paul Ryan in the past.
Okay, connecting this all up.
Yeah.
The platform is clearly optimized for winning primaries, aligning with that populist base.
Yeah.
But how does that translate to the general election? Especially in states that are more competitive, the swing states.
Yeah.
The sources seem to hint at real tension there.
Oh, the tension is definitely significant. Look at Colorado as a case study.
Okay.
The data confirms it. A candidate aligned with the populist movement does better, outperforms a traditional Republican in the Colorado primary. Clear win for the new guard there.
Got it.
But Colorado, structurally, is still what the analysts call a D+1 state in the general election, meaning slightly leans Democrat overall.
And the general election dynamic is just different than a primary, isn't it?
Totally different. In the general, Democrats are shown to effectively use the populist focus on these culturally charged issues.
Yeah.
The sources sometimes call them lightning rod issues.
Like what?
Like election denial, the January 6th events, abortion access. They use these to, quote, hammer the MAGA-aligned candidates.
Making it hard to reach moderates.
Extremely difficult. They struggle to appeal to the moderate and unaffiliated voters you absolutely need to win statewide in a place like Colorado. So you win the primary moving hard right, but then find it tough to win the general where you need broader appeal.
So wrapping this up, what does this all mean for the future path of the conservative movement?
Well, I think the essential takeaway is pretty clear. The America First Coalition has, for now, decisively conquered the Republican primary process, no question.
Yeah.
By aligning with those deep populist cultural forces we talked about, especially the blue-collar voters, the Southern ex-Democrats who felt left behind, and by focusing relentlessly on those potent issues, economy, border, crime,
And crucially,
by skillfully sidestepping that third rail of entitlement reform that really doomed earlier conservatives.
but the sources seem to suggest the biggest challenge now is bridging that gap.
Right.
Right, between a winning primary platform and a winning general election platform.
Exactly. Just relying on endorsements, the brand strength. It's proving maybe not quite enough in those tougher states, the purple states, where the opposition can mobilize moderates effectively around those cultural issues.
So what's the next big battle then?
Well, this raises the final provocative question from the analysis, maybe something for you to think about. If the old establishment is truly a spent force, and the MAGA platform faces these general election headwinds, maybe the next decisive fight is figuring out how to actually codify America First policies, the policies, not just the personality, into the formal Republican Party structure.
To give it institutional roots.
Yeah, to provide that ground support, that operational resilience for candidates beyond just the top personality, that kind of institutionalization, that could be the real long-term test.